Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? When I was trying to get this podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions. How do I record an episode? How do I get my show into all the apps people like to listen? How do I make money from my podcast? Well, the answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now by reading this ad. When I started using Anchor to do my podcast, it was so extremely easy that I haven't even bothered to look for another app to use. I love this app. It's the only one I deal with, the only one I even recommend, period. I recommend you get on there ASAP. If you want to start a podcast, this is definitely the place to go. It's easy. You can drive around and record. You can sit in your basement and record. You can do it anywhere. It's fantastic. So if you've always wanted to start a podcast, make money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start, anchor.fm/start to join me and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Adam Rich from the Really Rich Podcast, and I wanted to talk to you today about experts. We usually look at the experts of any field, and we automatically assume that whatever that comes out of their mouth has to be gospel, basically. We assume that whatever the experts are saying must be right because they either have a degree or they're PhD, they got a PhD, or they got some kind of they've just done studies, or they're on TV. Half the time we just believe whoever's on TV, which is even worse. I'm not saying that they're wrong automatically, but what I am saying is just because somebody has a degree in something does not mean that they're right. It doesn't mean that they're guaranteed to be correct. And so, there's a good chance that they are, but here's the point though. Throughout time, we have always had people that were quote unquote experts. We always had people that studied things for a very long time, and they made decisions, they made conclusions to things, or they came up with conclusions to things, right? We've had scientists, we have doctors, think about our medical history and how far we've come, the technology we have now, and the knowledge that we have. Think about how many times throughout history that people have been wrong. And these people were scientists. These people were doctors. These people relied on them to be correct, to be accurate. And yet we find out, 100 years later that they're wrong. Albert Einstein was considered brilliant, and he is, obviously. I'm not trying to knock Albert Einstein here. But in his day and age, in his time, he was considered the greatest astrophysicist in the history of time, if that's the right word. I'm not the expert either. So, but but people considered him to be like all knowledgeable. Same thing with Stephen Hawking. But yet these people consistently will say things that you learn later are just not right. They're just wrong. And it's not that their intention is bad. It's not that they're an idiot or anything like that. It's just that we all have different perspectives and ways of looking at things. We all have different, we gather knowledge from a multitude of places. Sometimes you even gather knowledge. I remember gaining knowledge from watching movies. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of people I know that are like from another country or whatever, and when they came to America, they couldn't speak English, and they learned by watching American English movies. They learned a lot about English by watching movies. So when people say that you can only learn by reading books, or you can only learn by going to a university or things like that, it's just wrong. It's just, now I'm not saying that's not the best place to go, or that, I tell people all the time, Google, or the internet in general, I should say, is arguably the greatest invention. It's easily the greatest invention when it comes to knowledge. You don't need to go to, I've said that, and this is very controversial, and I don't even know if this is the right answer necessarily, But I do believe that when it comes to community colleges, like regular community college, I think that every single one of them should be 100% free in America. Not universities. If you want to go to a special university, a specialty place like U of M or Harvard or Yale or something, I'm not saying U of M is on par with those other two places, but the point is, if you want to go to a specialty university and get that whole dorm life and get the experience of the university and get that accredited university stamp of approval, then be my guest, but you should have to pay extra money for that. But when it comes to community college, it should be 100% free, and here's why. 99% of the things you can learn at a community college is on the internet. You can literally learn it all for free if you feel like it. If you put in enough time and enough effort and enough studying on your own, you can learn anything. As a matter of fact, these people, 500 years ago, these people that we consider to be the experts, they didn't have a university to go to. I mean, they might have had some kind of schooling and things like that, obviously. They had education. But the point is, universities didn't exist 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago. There was no such thing as universities. There was education centers or places where people went to learn, and libraries where they had books and of ancient knowledge and things like that. But the point is, they all studied on their own. They did their own research. And I constantly can encourage people, do your own research. Because you can learn anything that you want to if you look into it yourself, if you know where to study. And it also comes from, here's the thing. A lot of people assume that if somebody has a degree, they have to be correct, or they automatically are correct, or they know what they're talking about. But if that's the case, why would anyone ever get a second opinion? Why would anyone go to a doctor, hear what the doctor has to say, and then they go, I don't like that. I'm going to get a second opinion. I think he's wrong. I'm going to get a second opinion. Well, why would you think that way if everyone that had a degree is automatically 100% right? And see, they're not, and we know that they're not, but that doesn't mean that they're automatically wrong either. See, when I bring this up to people, some people get mad and assume that I'm saying that you can't trust anybody, you can't listen to anybody, everything is fake and everything's false. That's not at all what I'm saying, guys. I'm saying that people with degrees usually are probably the most accurate. They're probably the smartest ones to listen to, but they aren't guaranteed to be the smartest ones to listen to. And I know this is a movie, but any of us that have seen Good Will Hunting know that sometimes the janitor's the smartest guy in the room. Sometimes he's the one up there doing. You see, my dad has been, and people that know him know that he jokes around. He makes a lot of filthy jokes. He's funny. He likes to laugh and things like that. So if you only know that element of him, or if you only see that side of him, you probably would assume, well, this guy can't be the wisest person or can't be that knowledgeable. But I will say this. In my experience, and I don't say this just because he's my dad, I'm smart enough to know that just because someone's your dad doesn't make them perfect or great or anything like that. Plenty of people's dads are idiots and awful and pieces of crap and all this stuff. However, what I have noticed in my experience from looking around, studying at school, studying all kinds of things, the wisest person I have ever met in person, and arguably the wisest person I know in life, is my dad. And that it doesn't mean book smart. It doesn't mean that he knows all about calculus and he knows all about ancient history and all this stuff. I just mean when I'm talking about figuring out life and figuring out people, I have never in my entire existence seen anyone do it better. And he will self-admittedly say that he was a janitor at GM for 40 years. He had different positions and things like that, and he wasn't technically a janitor, but he wasn't, he didn't have some super scientific engineering degree or some kind of, brilliant studies position up at GM. He was a chip handler, which basically it was kind of like a janitor, a custodian. He cleaned up after people and things like that. But he studied people, and he studied life and reality better than anybody I've ever seen. And so the only reason I'm bringing all of this up is not just to fluff my dad and tell everyone how great he is. It's purely to let you know that sometimes the people with the lowliest position can actually be the smartest or the wisest. You don't have to have a degree to be the most brilliant person on earth. It's just true. And listen, I don't have a degree of any kind. I have a couple certificates in things I don't care about, like electronics and some ISO quality control certification that I got, and then another one in plastics because I work at a plastics company. These aren't degrees, these aren't PhDs, these aren't anything like that. They're just certificates. They're the basics. They're basically just letting people know that, yeah, he kind of knows what he's talking about when it comes to those things. But I feel like out of, and I don't say this arrogantly, I don't say this to boast about myself. It's just when it comes to people, I don't know too many people that read and understand people better than I do. And I'm not, like I said, I don't know how to say that in a way that doesn't sound like arrogant. I'm not saying it like that. Listen, one thing about me is I don't think I'm better than anyone. I don't think I'm like the smartest guy. I don't think I'm the wisest guy. I don't think I'm the fastest guy, the best guy, none of that. But I also don't think you are either. Or this guy is, or that girl is. Like, I feel like we are all God's children. I feel like we're all equal. We're all like basically siblings, basically. We all should care about each other. We all should treat each other good. We should take care of each other. We should all look at each other like we're equal. I don't feel like I'm better than anybody. So I don't say anything arrogantly. I do get cocky sometimes because I think it's fun. I think it's exciting sometimes. So I do like to frame things up like that. But at my core, at my deepest possible level of understanding, I don't think that I'm better than anybody. And I mean that. But let's be honest, there are things that certain people are just naturally skilled at or gifted at or talented or whatever. And I just think that when it comes to reading and understanding people, like after I've met them, not just online in the comments section, but like I think like when it comes to reading and understanding people, there's not many people that I believe are better at that than me. And so I don't know any other way to say that, but the reason why I'm saying it in general is because I have 0 degree at that. I'm not some psychiatrist or psychologist. I literally feel like just because I've done this throughout my time with friends and people I work with and like people I know, I have tried to help them on a psychological, psychiatric type level with a decent amount of success, in my opinion, of like helping them become more positive or more helpful or more confident and better self-esteem. But I don't have a degree. I didn't go to school for that stuff. I just studied people my entire life because I watched my dad do it. And as a kid, as a little kid, you're just trying to like learn as much as you can and be as good as you can. And you really the people closest to you are the best role models you have. And my mom and dad are the best role models I can possibly think of. Like I thank God all the time for the parenting that I've had because they're such good people. And they did I don't say this like they did such a good job because I'm so awesome. I just mean they did a great job of helping me understand the world and people and not feeling entitled and understanding that the world doesn't owe me anything, but also to have extraordinary amount of confidence in my own ability and who I am and things like that. I just think they did a good job. And I'm also a very nice person to people, unless you do very wrong things to me. And even then I try to take the high road, but I'm not perfect. So therefore I screw up sometimes. And I get just as mean as them. But I hold the door open for people. I say please and thank you. I try to present manners and things. I try to be a respectful person and do good things for people. I try to tip people sometimes even when they don't really need a tip or deserve a tip or their position doesn't call for a tip. Sometimes I still try to give them one anyway because I watched my dad do that. He likes to give. He likes to be charitable. And so all I'm saying is you don't have to be considered a scientist or a doctor to be absolutely brilliant in knowing things. But what we do a lot of times is we'll look at somebody and we'll say, oh, that guy's an expert because they have a degree. And then we just believe them and we don't put any stock into the chance that they could be wrong. We just assume that they're right. And it's dangerous because think about how many times you've watched the news. Like you got CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CBS, ABC. You have all these different channels. They're all the news, but they say very different things, don't they? If you turn on CNN and you turn on Fox and you're looking at the exact same event, like Trump gives out a speech, right? You see CNN do everything in their power to bury him, but then on Fox, you see them do almost everything in their power to make it sound good, right? And sometimes it is very good, and sometimes maybe it's not, and maybe they're just trying to make it look that way. And same thing goes with CNN. Maybe sometimes they're right, which is very rare, but maybe sometimes they're right. But the majority of the time, it's constant, like almost fire and brimstone. It's almost the sky is falling, everything's awful, everything Trump does is bad. And then it's like, but then you turn on another channel and it's like, no, Trump did this, which is great for minorities and African American and women, and he did this policy, which was great for the Middle East, and he did this, and it's like, well, which one's right? I mean, they can't both be correct. Maybe both of them are wrong. The point is, though, we look at these people as experts and we just listen to them. We don't do our own research, the majority of us. We don't follow up. We don't, and now they got these people that are called the fact checkers, and half the time you find out the fact checkers are wrong. So who's fact checking the fact checkers? It's just, people, we live in such a skewed time of information. Like the information is out there, but with every piece of truth, you get 28 pieces of false to go with it. So we desperately need to do our own research, especially if it's something you really care about. Listen, if it's something you don't really care about, like somebody says, oh, hey, man, I'm sorry I would have been here sooner, but, I took this route and it made me like 15 minutes later and I would have been here sooner. I'm not saying you should go outside and check their GPS and be like, did they really do that? Did they really drive that way? Are they lying? Did they just leave later? Like, if it's something that's not that important, who cares? But if it's something you greatly care about, if you get a paper cut and the doctor says, I think we need to amputate it, I would also go get a second opinion. Now, if the second doctor says, no, yeah, that doctor was definitely right, we need to amputate this thing, well, then maybe you probably don't need a third opinion. But if the second guy says, oh no, it's just a paper cut, I would just put some isopropyl rubbing alcohol on that and put a Band-Aid on it, you'll be fine in 3 days. Like, maybe the answer is somewhere in the middle. Maybe they're both wrong. They can't both be right, is the only point I'm saying. And so many times we see scientists that both have degrees from the same place about the same study, and they have two totally different opinions about something, and they argue or they disagree on something, or they're debating something together. Like, you can't just assume that because a person is a quote-unquote expert, that they are right. We may find out in 100 years, long after we're all dead, we may find out in 100, 200 years that all these people right now that we think are experts, all these doctors, all these scientists that we know are correct, they might end up being wrong. Do you know how many times in my lifetime I've heard them say, well, eggs are good. They're good for you. And then later that's like, no, they're bad. And then another one's like, no, they're good. And then another one's like, no, but the yellow part's bad, but the white part's good. And it's like the old Louis C.K. bit where he said, Louis Black, and he said, make up your mind, I gotta eat. It's the point. We might find out in 20 years that ice cream is the most healthy thing you can eat. Now, the chances of that are very slim, arguably none, but we don't know. Wine used to be terrible for you. Now it's good for your heart. It's water. And think about this. Sometimes it's just moderation. Water is phenomenal for you. It's easily the greatest liquid you could possibly put into your body is water. Straight up water. However, you drink too much water, you die. There has been, Google it if you don't believe me. There has been I believe it was a woman, did a radio show. She was doing some game, she was a contestant on a radio. It might not have been a woman, maybe it was a guy. I'm pretty sure it was a woman. But anyway, look this up. A woman had to drink so much water in such a short amount of time. She did, and it killed her. She actually died. It happens. If you get a cut and you put salt on it, or say you get like a canker sore in your mouth or a sore throat and you gargle with salt water, it'll heal it. But if you eat nothing but salty French fries every day, you're going to die from that. Same thing with alcohol. You drink a glass of wine, it's good for your heart. You drink 5 bottles in one night, you're probably dying from alcohol poisoning. So we don't know is the point that I'm getting at. We make the more time that goes on, the better we get. But that does not mean that we're right today. I mean, think about how many quote-unquote experts said that the sun revolves around the earth and that the earth is flat. It's on a They used to say that it was on a tortoise back or a turtle's back. I think a tortoise, but whatever. Same thing, right? Or maybe it's not. I don't know. The experts will figure that out in a couple hundred years. But all I'm saying, guys, is that there are so many experts that get proven wrong. And one of my favorite sayings, and I made a TikTok video on this and I got ripped up for this, and it's common sense. Like, I know I'm right about this, but people didn't like how I said it or what I said, so they attacked me and they said, oh, so we can't trust education, blah, blah, blah. They just ripped me up for this. But all I said was this: the experts are always right until they're proven wrong. And it's just a beautiful quote. I've been saying it since I was a kid. I don't even know if I came up with it or if somebody else did, and I just own it for my own. I don't know. But all I know is this. It's so true. Albert Einstein said that nothing in the universe, nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. And we have found out that's untrue too. Stephen Hawking said that because there is a force like gravity, the universe can and will create itself from nothing. He actually said that. That's Stephen Hawking. Arguably the smartest one in our generation. And this guy said something that's stupid. Let me break that down for people that aren't quite grasping what I said. He said, because there is a law or a force of gravity, a law like gravity, the universe can and will create itself from nothing. Now let me tell you something. Let me tell you why that's so dumb. If the universe can and will create itself from nothing, then that means there was nothing, like a literal no thing. A lack of anything is what nothing is. Whatever you can think of, it's not that. Anything that you can think of in the world, it's not that. Anything that you can think of in the history of time, it's not that either. It's a literal no thing. It's nothing. It's not space. It's not time. It's not matter. It's not anything. And this guy, who is considered one of the most brilliant ever, said, because there's gravity, because there's a force like gravity or a law of gravity, because there is something, the universe can create itself from nothing. So because there's something, that's why the universe was created from nothing. Do you understand how silly that is? If there's nothing, then there is no gravity. There is no law of gravity. If there's no gravity, there's no law of gravity. And so there's no law of gravity and there is no gravity at all. And yet somehow nothing, the universe was created from nothing, basically, is what he was saying. So it's very, very weird to have a guy that brilliant say something that stupid. If you have a law of gravity, then that means you have gravity. And if you have gravity, that's not nothing. So the universe couldn't create itself from nothing if there was gravity, because the universe, there wouldn't be nothing. There would be gravity. You understand? And on top of that, gravity just does the same thing over and over. We all know a little bit about gravity, I'm sure. Gravity isn't an impersonal force. It doesn't make choices. It doesn't say one day, you know what, I'm just not going to work. It does the same thing every single time, the exact same amount. We can predict how much gravity is on every single planet based on its mass. That's how predictable gravity is. So to think that gravity would make the universe from nothing, mind you, it's just crazy. Like, these guys are experts. People rely on the words that come out of their mouths as truth. And yet they say stuff like that. All I'm saying, people, I'm going to wrap it up with this, is that just because a person is considered to be an expert does not mean that what they're saying is true, factual, or even possible. But are they more than likely correct? Yes, probably. But that doesn't mean that they definitely, without question, guaranteed are, just because they have a degree, guys. That's all I'm trying to say. So if you really care about something and you really, really, really want to know something, yes, listen to what the experts say, read what they have to say, and then do your own research. They could be wrong. What I would do, if ever anything is important to you, if there's ever a thing that you want to know about and you want to know like as much as possible about it, type in the information of it. Like, say you want to learn everything there is to know about gravity, then type in Does gravity exist? I want to know everything about gravity, whatever. Research all of it, right? Then, after you're done researching all the experts, all the peer-reviewed studies, all those things that you believe are 100% factual, then say, what are the counter-arguments against it? And then you'll really start finding out the good information. See, people like to listen to whatever fits kind of the belief they already have, and then they stop there. Or sometimes they'll read stuff and then it changes their belief and they're like, okay, that's enough, and then they move on. What I'm saying is, always question everything, especially if it comes from a human being, because we are all flawed. We are all wrong about something at some point. We might find out in a week that I'm wrong about this entire conversation we're having right now. That's the point, is that I am more than happy to make room to improve. If I find out I'm wrong about something, and I mean proven wrong, not somebody's opinion, but if I find out that I'm definitely wrong about something, I don't mind it, because I love learning. I like learning what's right. I want to be right. I want to know what's right. I don't mean I want to be right like, I don't care what you say, I'm right. I don't mean like that. I mean, I want to be knowledgeable. I want to know what's right. So I can be right, I guess. I want to know the truth about everything that I possibly can. And so many times we are lied to by people that claim to have knowledge just because they believe it to be a certain way. And then we find out that, quote, that other experts that also have degrees argue against them. So which one's correct? Which expert is right? If one of them, if two experts are arguing with each other, which expert is right, making the other expert not an expert? And maybe they're both wrong. But that's all I got, guys. I love you so much, and I thank you for listening, and I hope that this was helpful. I hope that you guys, I hope you like this, and anytime you want to get a hold of me, you can do that through the Anchor app if you want to leave me a voice message. But other than that, you can get a hold of me on like any social media place, basically. It's Adam Rich on TikTok. You can find me at just Adam Rich, founder and host of Really Rich Podcast on LinkedIn. YouTube, I've changed the name now on my YouTube channel to Adam Rich to make it extra easy, so you can just find it there. Snapchat, it's called Really Rich, or you can find Really Rich Podcast on Instagram. Twitter is Really Rich Adam. And I'm trying to figure out, I need to work on that soon. I've been saying this for a while, and I just have not put in the time or the effort to do it. But I'm trying to slowly change all my social media channel or names to one thing that's unique to me. That way you can all, it's just one name on all platforms, and then everyone can find it. So I'm going to work on that too, guys. But if you want, please get a hold of me. I encourage you to talk to me and everyone, in the chat and the comments and all that stuff. And please, I guess, like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. I'm going to try to start moving over some videos there, just in case TikTok gets banned and everything. I should have been doing this for a long time anyway, but it's just hard when I don't know. I got so much stuff going on. But anyway, enough about my sob story. I love you guys, and I thank you again for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.